Let's talk Tesla. Tesla is an interesting one because there was a upgrade this morning, or maybe it was over the weekend, from Morgan Stanley. They basically said, look, you could have a giant AI company, or a giant AI product, come out of this thing. I think they quoted something like $500 billion of value with the prospective AI services or whatever. So this morning, what we saw is stock gapped higher overnight and it bounced right off of our call wall, as you can see here, which is 260. And there is some zero DTE buying in here. We had a hero flow alert launch, but there's been some pretty persistent call buying in the name. And then right around noon, around 270 in the stock, that flow really did pause or shut off. And so what's interesting to flag about that is I think this 270 price level is one to keep in your mind in the short term. I'm going to turn off the zero DTE flow, because what you get here is nobody's trying to buy puts in this stock right now. But there was obviously some longer dated call buying that came in. And then right around kind of the European close, that flow has quieted down a little bit. Now, the problem with the AI names is that if there's any inkling that rates are going to go up over the next, with Wednesday's CPI reading or into FOMC next week, then that can really put a damper on tech as a whole, right? So you do have that macro piece that you're wrestling with, you're watching here. But this is very bullish action here off of this 260 call wall level. If you just look at where the stock is over the last several days, what you see here, this is a stock that has been underperforming the broader tech sector, right? If you look at NVIDIA, Apple, Microsoft, Google, those stocks are all up here. Now, technically, Tesla is a car company. Obviously, they're not pure AI. But if you start to say, hey, this is where, these other AI names are trading, then you can easily see the stock, I think, pull back up into this or push back into this 300 area, something in that general neighborhood. Now, if you look at the actual positioning in Equity Hub, so remember, we have this kind of call buying. It's very active. This is big, $500 million of deltas being bought here in calls. If you go over to the Equity Hub and pull the name up, which we can do now, what you can see is that there is this weird gap in positioning between basically 260, 270, and then up at 300. So if I just hide our levels here, you can see this is 260. This was the support line for today. We're now in this 270 area, but there's not much in this zone up to 300. And what you can see is the call gamma, which is in orange, it is below put gamma, as you can see here. So puts are dominating this name until today. This is a name that people have been shorting. It seems to have a lot more downside volatility, and then it'll kind of recover, right? It's this regurgitation of like puking to the downside and then rallying back a little bit. But if we start to cross this 270 as we're doing today, and the calls are piling on as we know they are today based on what Hero is telling us, then I think you could very quickly see this thing hit that 300 strike pretty quickly. Now, the caveat there, the thing you want to be careful with is obviously if CPI comes in hot and we think rates are going to go back up, then the damper on the whole tech sector in general is going to hit this thing. And so you could have a little bit of a struggle there. So one way to play this would be, hey, I'm going to get long Tesla versus short Qs or short maybe some of the other AI names that are already at a relative high. So that padding that bet, or if you put into call structures, obviously you can, mitigate some of that risk. So I think this is very interesting as you want to push up here. And then to that point on puts, if you look at the risk reversal metric, which looks at the 1 month put relative to call in terms of implied vol readings, it's negative right now, which tells us that the relative out of the money put, 25 delta put, has a higher implied vol than the call. So there's not a call bid through that lens in this name, at least there wasn't as per Friday. That is probably going to flip if there's any follow through here. And the reason I'm focused on this name is because this is the original meme stock. Elon obviously has a following unlike any other. And in that respect, this was a little bit left for dead, but it has this very ardent following. If those people kind of get catalyzed behind this thing, it could really pick up, I think, and move pretty quickly. And so, you got to like this as a strategic long versus a lot of the other stocks that you could play right now, because it just seems to have that room to run. Calls are not, we don't have a positive risk reversal reading, which is something you look for if there was a real strong call bid. Obviously, a lot of this changed today. And so I think this is one that if you're looking for selective longs, or if you're looking for some interesting long names to play, this is really screaming to me. And I like, again, maybe long Tesla versus short some of the other AI names, or like an XLK, something like that is interesting. Or again, call spreads, call spreads, something like that. That caveat, the thing you just got to make sure we get through that CPI reading in particular. And I think this could really pick up with that 300 strike, the very obvious, I think, sort of first target here. So that is just an interesting name for y'all to pick up on and something to watch for the next couple of days.